Hi everyone, and welcome back. Welcome to my live stream, and in this video we are going to talk about Next.js. Okay, Next.js is already very much popular for server-side rendered application, and in this video we are going to talk about the same thing, like how you can build the simple Next.js application. We'll go through some documentation and we will see how you can build the TypeScript application. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to create a simple Next.js TypeScript application. So let me get started with the setup. So using this, we can create a simple next app. Like create React app is used to create a React application. Similarly, we have Angular CLI, create React app, and Nest CLI. These are the CLI tools which are helping us to build the applications in a smarter way. We don't need to write a lot of configurations. We can just use create React app application name. Similarly, ng generate application to create a simple Angular app using Angular CLI. Similarly, Nest CLI is also helping us to build the bare bones structure. Similarly, the Next.js application has a CLI, which is create next app, that will help us to create a simple TypeScript application. So here what we can do is npx create React app and TypeScript version. So what it will do is npx, using npx you don't need to install any particular global module. It will just install all these modules. Now Next.js application is the same React app with the server-side rendering. So it will install the dependencies React DOM and the Next. Okay, and it is going to create my app. We'll just rename this application to something else. This is going to populate our TypeScript template. So let's wait until this is done. Now it is installing the dev dependencies, ESLint, TypeScript, ESLint, all the typings for the React, typings for the Node, and typings for the React DOM, because we are using TypeScript. So you will see there is a tsconfig in our project workspace, and the tsconfig has build instructions. We are going to build the Next.js application, and using simple npm script like npm run build, npm run dev, we should be able to launch the Next.js application on a particular port. So how it is different from create React app? It is just like same React components, but we are rendering React components from the server side, from the Node.js process instance. You can say that in the create React app we were just running a simple HTTP server at the client side, and using webpack dev server we were able to launch the application. In the server side rendering, we are using Node.js internal server that is exposing our pages from the server, and our client can receive those on different routes which we are going to configure. So let's wait for the dependencies to get installed, and then we will just look into the folder structure of basic Next.js TypeScript app. Okay, we have our application ready. What we can do, we can just rename it to something else, and now we can take a look on to all different configurations. We are also going to use the Tailwind utilities to introduce the styling for this application. So this is the basic structure for our TypeScript application. Here we can see tsconfig, which has the compiler instructions, like how to compile the React TypeScript application. Okay, and here we have our pages, like app.js is the default component. This is like you can say the base components for all the components. Whatever you want to do, the common configurations you can put here. In the public, you can put all your images and all these things. Styles, these are the global styles. Whatever the styles you wanted to use, you can put it here. In Next.js configuration, this is like if you wanted to customize the Next.js build approach, you can customize it here. If we look into the package.json, it doesn't have much. Like, okay, we have a React DOM, and the Next. These are the three basic dependencies. And the dev dependencies, we have Node, React DOM. So these are just typings because we are using TypeScript. So Node typings, React DOM, and the ESLint, these are just lint configurations. And TypeScript because we need to build the code, so that will be a part of dev dependencies. And when we do npm run build, it is going to generate the build output. Let's say if I do this, cd myapp npm run build, we already have all the dependencies installed. So these are the different script: next build, npm run dev. For local development, you can just use npm run dev, which will just execute next dev command, and it will launch your Next.js server, rendering the applications. Now the pages will be here, all the pages, like in the index.tsx, in the API there is a hello.ts. So let's talk about this API later. But when you render this application from the server side, when you hit /, then it is going to render index.tsx file. Okay, index.tsx file has this code in it, and we are using Css modules. You can say we are using home module. This is the head, this is the main, and this is like the basic structure. We will just remove this thing and we will use our own code for this. Okay, so you can get rid of all these things, we really don't need it. This is index.tsx. You can just say hello world, and then you can start creating your own different pages here. So this is div, I can just put h1. So we are still in the next build. It is building the application, and it will create .next folder, which contains this is the internal .next folder, which Next.js manages to cache the resources and render it on the client side. Now there are a lot of important things about Next.js. If we look into the features, there is the huge big list of features which it supports, and there are a lot of other frameworks are also available on the same, like Vue.js provide Nuxt, Svelte.js provides SvelteKit. Similarly, React provide this Next.js. Angular doesn't have any server-side rendered framework till yet, but all these frameworks has this kind of structure where they are providing a server-side rendered framework. So if you want to get started with the TypeScript template, you can just create a simple application, and these are the basic scripts: npm run dev, npm run build, npm run start, and we are using these three major dependencies: Next, React, and React DOM, because it is built on top of React. So we need React and React DOM. Next is just a server-side rendered framework which we are using, and these are the four main scripts you will see: next lint, start, build, and dev. and all the routes, because it's going to be a single page application, not client side rendered single page application, but all the pages we are going to define inside a pages directory. So whatever we are going to do, we are going to put everything inside the pages folder, index.tsx, right? So if it is index.tsx, it will be mapped to the /. So here we also have some APIs created, because this is server side rendered and you can define the APIs. So whatever the API is, like I have hello.ts, so this is the API part, and these are the pages. So when you hit /, it will render the index.tsx, and whenever you might create a new pages, like okay, I have about.tsx, so whenever you hit / about, it should be able to render the about page. This concept is kind of similar in all other different frameworks also. Like you don't need to register it to a particular route. Whatever you are going to put inside a next pages folder, it will become a particular route. So / about will render about page, / will render indexed page. So here we can say there is a about page, and we can export this component. So this will get mapped with the about route, and these are the different chunks it has created. This is the API part, and this is the components, and these are all different process it is doing when it is doing the next build. If you wanted to run it, npm run dev, right? So dev will just start the server, and it will launch the application on 3000. Coming to the documentation, React components we were writing either in .js, .tsx, .jsx, but here we are writing TypeScript. So all the files will be having extension .tsx. Okay. The important part here is we will be writing all the components in the pages folder. Now you can do the nesting. Okay, I do have inside pages, I have like, okay, I wanted to put home, and inside that I have another component. So the route will become /home /account.tsx. Let's say I have something like this. So the overall route will become /home /account. So the routing is decided by what you put inside the pages folder. Now I'll just talk about the basic things, like Next.js is also known as a static site rendering platform like the Gatsby or other platform available, but it is used for dynamic content rendering also, because obviously we are going to have APIs will render the data, and that we are going to publish on our pages. Static files, if you wanted to serve like images or some JSON or some static content, you can put in the public folder. So here we do have a public folder. So if I wanted to use any images, I can just create images. All your SVG, PNG, all type of images you can put here, and you can just use those images directly by just putting /images, and the image name is, okay, let's say logo.png. When it hit /images, it will look directly into the public folder images. So this is used for static serving the files, static file serving. CSS support for, you can use the Tailwind utilities or built-in CSS or CSS modules. What for the beginners you can do is you can put all your CSS in the global.css, and automatically these global.css will be picked up by your app.tsx, because here you might be importing. So all the CSS you will be importing in the app.tsx in this base component. Okay, or if you are using utilities, I recommend using the utilities stylings like Tailwind and all. So you don't need to write too much stylings. You can just use whatever the Tailwind is providing. It provides each and everything. You don't need to even think about adding any additional style. And this is running our application on 3000 port, let's say. So it should be able to render our home page with that. So if you can see, this is rendering hello world. Now you can just change the route. let's say I was in the home account. If that was the route, it should be able to render, and obviously we don't have a styles there. So I mean the path is now changed, so these we will not be able to access the style. So either I can, just to keep it running, I can just fix the styles path and it will start running again. Hello world, right? So this is the route. This is how the routing happens with the Next.js. Now I'm inside a home account, so it is looking for home folder. Inside that, do you have account.tsx? I will compile it and I should be able to render it. Okay, so what is the error there? Can't find module dot next. So we just, what we can do is, let's run this again. So this is account.tsx. So it should be able to render your account page. Similarly, we have about. So this is how it is rendering all the pages from the root. This is the pages. I mean, compiler get confused. You should always be aware that you are writing Typescript, so all the components should have a .tsx. When you are writing React component, either you can write .js or .jsx. Okay. Now what I'm going to do here is, let's talk about, okay, what are the basic features it is providing, because this is Next.js server-side rendering. So we are going to create multiple routes. Okay, some pages will be a static, some pages will be a mixed of data inside them. Like we will be using data fetching, and there are 3 different approaches for the data fetching: get static path, get static props, and get server-side rendered props. Sometimes the data is static, you can just Next.js will compile it only once and will just render it. Sometimes the data is dynamic, and whenever you reload the page, it is going to generate it is going to fetch the data again and going to render the data again. So but we didn't talk about the core aspects of Next.js. I mean, this is getting popular. I know, like earlier we used to write client-side app using create React app, and we were happy. But now people need some more advantage of using server-side rendering. The only difference is the whole page is getting compiled at the server side, and that is getting rendered on the UI. So if you look into a simple component, let's say I'm just putting /. So what we are getting rendered on the UI for this component, it is compiling, the whole page is compiling from the server side, and we are getting the final output on the client side. It is just rendering the small compiled HTML, so we don't need to worry about compiling the React and all these things. We are getting directly the hello world. So if you inspect this, like what data we are getting the pure HTML, and the job of the browser is to just compile the HTML and render it on the browser. So we are not doing a heavy lifting on the client side. This is what you are generating. Even if you just look into the network tab, like which particular page it is rendering for this particular route, then we can just see. Let me just hard reload this page. Okay, so this is hot reloading. We are not looking for this. I'm looking for any network calls for these pages, because this is not single page app where all the bundles has been rendered together. Okay, now even if you see the home page, what is happening is it is getting the whole data together. It is getting the compiled this HTML, and the only responsibility of the browser is just to render this component, because you are getting the pure HTML. You don't need to do a lot of compilation. And if you look into this is head, next head, and here it is downloading all the chunks in the one go, all the server side rendered chunks, and this is your HTML. Okay, Coming to a little bit on the documentation side, these are different possible ways in which we can make an API call, in which we can render the data. Get server side props, and built-in CSS support, we just need to put the styles inside our global styles, and we need to import that in the underscore app.js. Okay, you can use Tailwind, you can use Bootstrap or whatever. Just the only thing is, whatever the styles you are using, just put that inside underscore app.js, so your whole Next.js app knows, okay, this is the place where you are using styles. Okay, if you are using the Bootstrap, what you will do, you will just install the Bootstrap, npm install --save Bootstrap, and put the styles inside underscore app.js. Okay, and this is just a simple component. Now rest all these, this is the React logic. Here you can use hooks, class-based component, functional component, or whatever you want. All those things you can just get that done. And here it also supports the CSS modules. And what you can do is, this is the naming conventions you can use, like button.module.css, table.module.css, accordion.module.css, and you can import those styles in the component. So what it will do is, you will create a button.js component, and you can import the button module CSS. Even you can also use Sass. So you just create a Sass variables and all these things. You just need to import all your Sass files inside underscore app.js. Okay, so what we are going to do, I'm going to split this into the two parts. This is the part one, where we are just going to talk about simple things like, okay, environment variables, how you can put the environment. So there is a .env.local file. Every Next.js application has it, or you can create .env.local. By default, it will look for this file, and it will try to upload these variables in the process.env. And how you define the variables, you can define the variables something like this. So this is how we are defining. In the Next.js, I think you need to prefix them. If you wanted to expose these variables to the client side browser, because this is a server side rendered application, if you wanted to just use them, you can just use them like this. But if there is something which you wanted to also use at the client side, then you can just prefix those variables with this. Let's say this is something which will be exposed to the browser also, and that will get added in the window object. And if you just wanted to use something in your Next.js application only, you can just use those without next prefix. And you can access these variables using process.env.dbhost, dbuser, dbpassword, because this is a server-side rendered application, and you can run any kind of asynchronous logic to fetch the data from persistence layer. Okay, routing is the simple, which we discussed. Okay, how you can create a static routes. All the routes are rendered from the pages directory. This will become /. Let me zoom this a little bit. This will become a /. This will become a blog page, because index.js means the /. So this route will become blog. Nested route, this will become the blog first post. This will become dashboard settings username. This is how. And you can also create slugs. Slugs means dynamic routes. So here what we are saying is, I have a blog slug, and this slug is a dynamic. Here it can replace with anything. It can be blog hello world. This will be compiled to the blog slug. Slug is the dynamic variable, and this will become blog hello world. Pages username settings.js. So this username can change. So it can be simply the foo settings. And if you want, there are triple dots. This is always a little bit confusing. What it is saying is, inside this you can put a lot of things. So if you see, it is able to render everything which is coming after post. So post star, that means whatever is coming after post will get rendered through this component, through this page inside the post. Triple dot. Linking between pages, this is the router link. Like you wanted to navigate from about to index, index to account page, account to home page, you can just use simple link. It is simple as ahref, anchor tag in HTML. But note, exactly the anchor tag. It just you have to use this link directive from the next link, and you can navigate between different pages. Okay, linking the dynamic path. Like let's say I have a particular blog with a different slug, so you can do it something like this: link href, and this is the dynamic content. Same as this, these concepts are same in all different framework, either it is a client side or server side rendered framework. So we talked about environment variables, TypeScript support we are already providing, create next step and TypeScript application. Environment variables, ESLint support, we have lint, next lint, it's a inbuilt, we don't need to customize anything, because what happens is these are the create next step internally using the ESLint dev dependencies. You don't need to do anything, you can just hit next lint file, next lint command, and it should be able to lint your code. And you can, because it's internally using all these ESLint modules, ESLint plugin next, ESLint plugin react, ESLint plugin react hooks. Okay, font optimization, image optimization, which was recently added. Like if you wanted to render a particular image, then you can just use the image tag provided by Next.js. Okay, so like I can import the profile pic, and then I can just use it in the image tag. So Next.js automatically determines the width and height based on the imported file. I mean, this is actually automatically providing all the optimization of rendering the image on the UI. Font optimization, static file serving, we have already discussed. If you wanted to render anything, if you put /me.png, what will happen? It will start looking for this file inside public folder. If you put /images /me.png, it will look for this image me.png inside public images folder. Okay, so these are the different ways in which it will start looking for the files. Layouts are important because it's not like each and every page which is getting rendered from server side has the same layout. You have a login page having different layout, you have a dashboard page have a header, footer, sidebar, navbar, so different layouts. So at the runtime you can decide what layout you wanted to use. You can even set the layout for a particular page. Okay, login page this layout, dashboard page a different layout. Okay, so this is the part 1 where I just wanted to go through how to just simply bootstrap the Next.js application. Then the important part is the data fetching in the Next.js application and writing a simple dashboard app with simple login, maybe with auth 0. This is what we can cover. This is what we can cover, so stay tuned and we'll just cover that in the second